This is going to be another iteration of a really popular segment I've done in the past on the channel. Basically, I'll be scrolling through YouTube every once in a while, kind of doom scrolling YouTube shorts, looking for something interesting to watch, and I will be assaulted, visually and audibly assaulted, by some AI-voiced Minecraft parkour video fake stories clearly written by people with a blatant political agenda that, watching them with that knowledge, it's like so obvious how blatantly false these stories are. And I never can help myself but to, it's a bit of a guilty pleasure, I can never help myself but to go to the comments and look and see if the overwhelming majority of comments recognize the story as fake bullshit or if they're falling for it. And they're always all falling for it. And I find myself in private stumbling upon these videos and getting frustrated with them all the time, getting annoyed and scrolling off of them. But I decided, why not turn this frustration? Because the reason I'm frustrated is I have so much to say about this, but I don't really have anyone to say it to. Why not just save one of these dog shit slop videos to cover on stream and rant about how and why it makes me so angry to you guys who seem to actually be interested in listening to me rant about these things. Why not? So I have brought up a video that my eyes and ears were assaulted with this morning. It's only about 2 months old, and it comes from an AI slap channel called Secret Voices. And it is called, "My Husband Killed Himself After I Cheated on Him. Now my daughter has cut ties with me, blaming me." I saw this video, and I immediately knew it was bullshit. Like, down to the... Okay. Let's go over... Alright, you know what? I'm not going to prelude this too much. We're just going to go ahead and jump into this video and watch this. This has like 700,000 views or something like this. Overwhelmingly positive response. The comments are overwhelmingly believing this story. So people think this is real. And I want us to watch this, deconstruct how obviously fake it is, and then talk about why people are looking past how blatantly fake these stories are and believing them without a second thought. Like, why are they doing this? It's probably the most important part of this entire segment, but first, let's rant at the cringe. This video is actually broken up into multiple stories, and I'm only really interested in the first story because that is the one that the title is referencing, and no doubt the most interesting story. So keep in mind that this is AI red slop, written by an incel as fan fiction meant to empower other incels. And if you don't believe me that this is a thing that exists and that incels make and, like, delight in, I've got more to show you guys. But first, let's check this out.
First story. My husband ended himself after I cheated on him. Now my daughter has cut ties with me, blaming me for his death, and refusing to forgive or meet her stepfather. I don't know why.
So, just starting off, I don't think there's a single woman on this planet that lacks the self-awareness necessary to recognize that posting a story like this on Reddit is only going to generate negative responses about you. I guess the presumption from the audience member is supposed to be this woman is so delusional that after what she just said, thinking anyone would agree with her. So the first part here is that a man wrote this, obviously, believing that most people will just assume this woman is so delusional and so used to having everything she says believed at face value that if she goes to the internet and whines about this situation, she'll receive sympathy. I've heard a lot of incels say stuff along these lines, that women go online and brag about the worst things imaginable and frame themselves as the victim to get sympathy from generally other women. It's a very common incel talking point. If you haven't heard it before, then I'm jealous of you.
Why everyone thinks I'm such a monster. I just want to live my life, and I'm tired of being punished for moving on. My daughter...
Now here you've got the whole "I'm tired of being punished for moving on" bit, like clearly written by a man who's like trying to write this woman to be very detestable. You know, like her husband killed himself because of her actions betraying him, and she can only think about how much it sucks for her. Like, very clearly meant to evoke, like, the what a selfish bitch type responses from men who read this. Because this was written by a man to piss off other men.
Daughter refuses to speak to me, and no one understands how hard this has been for me. I never thought posting here would get me anywhere, but maybe someone can finally see my side. My husband...
Like, once again, written with the purpose of coming from a character that sounds as narcissistic and conceited as possible. Like, I never thought anything would come from posting here, but maybe if I do, someone will see my side, because she just wants someone to see her side. She just wants people to agree with her. She refuses to, like, see from her daughter's perspective. It's also written such that the main person she's mad at now is her own daughter, and it is actually a girl/woman who recognizes the mother's behavior is bad, framing the story in such a way in which male viewers and readers can feel even more so that, like, this woman in particular is so awful that even other women recognize how awful she is. Like, I feel like my daughter doesn't speak to me anymore rather than my son or my child is very intentional.
Husband and I had been married for over 20 years, and for most of it,
Long
I wasn't
marriage.
happy. We married young me at 20 and him at 24, and back then, I thought he was everything I wanted.
Mind you, this means that this is a 40-year-old woman posting on Reddit, supposedly. There are a fair amount of 40-year-olds on Reddit, but, like, if you do the math, you assume this story came out this year on Reddit, because this is supposedly a Reddit story, that's just been put through an AI voice reader. That would make this woman 40 at the least. I don't think there are a lot of 40-year-old women going on Reddit to tell their side of, like, a situation like this.
He was stable, dependable, and kind. But stability turns into boredom over the years.
This is the moment where I had zero doubts whatsoever this was written by an incel. A male incel. The idea, there's a very common idea among incels and young men of these days, which of this day, which are basically just incels now. Like, most young men now are just incels, basically. If you judge them by the standards of what an incel was in 2016, everyone would agree. Like, most young men now are incels. And so a lot of incel rhetoric centers around this idea that women grow bored with peace. You'll oftentimes hear a lot of, like, incel men say things like, avoid modern women. The most valuable thing you have is your peace. And when you're experiencing peace, women hate it. They thrive off of drama. And you know, this mindset, like, spreads to those, like, the pick-me girls who are like, I don't have any friends that are girls. They're just too much drama. I only hang out with guys. Like, you know, those types of girls. Like, that mindset is nothing new. But it's very common among incels of these days that, like, women are out there saying they want a nice, stable, good guy, but then that all those good things become boredom for women, boredom, quote unquote, and then they cheat because they're bored with how perfect you are. Now, to be fair, there are women who are like this. There are women that are like this. I actually saw a clip recently that was like, ooh, bro, she just created incels the other day. I was watching, for those that don't know, World of Warcraft released a version of itself, World of Warcraft Classic, that is hardcore mode. You make a character, it's dead forever. You have to make a whole new character and level it all over again and catch up to where you were. It's very difficult and it's very hardcore. It's why it's called Hardcore WoW. But a bunch of streamers started making content on this. And for some reason, a lot of WoW streamers are OnlyFans girls. And one of the most popular is a streamer named Fandy. And another streamer, who's just this, like, random guy named Lakari, is in VC, and I guess Lakari has a reputation among the guildies for having been, like, single for a really long time. He strikes out with women constantly, and so Fandy starts giving him advice. And she says to him, mind you, this is live streamed while they're playing WoW together, like running a dungeon. The advice she gives him, and I feel like she was probably mostly joking, was that he's too nice and he needs to be more aggressive when going after girls, because if he continues being such a nice guy, girls are going to get bored with him. She just straight up tells him this. And I was watching that like, oh my god, does she know how many incels she just created? Does she know like how incorrectly so many young men are going to interpret that? And you could see in Lakari's face that like he got so disappointed finding out that from a woman that she thinks it's boring for a guy to be like actually nice. Because she says to him, "You're too nice." It's like, dude, she just created at least one incel with that line. And there were like 50,000 people watching that shit live or something like that. Dude, that was rough wording at the very least, you know? But like that mindset that like overwhelmingly women think that way is really popular among incels. And that idea is, you know, obviously popping up its head here.
Our relationship became stagnant. When he got sick 3 years ago, everything fell apart. He was diagnosed.
So now we're writing it. So for those that don't know, and this is the comedy in it, in like, I believe the statistics are like 1 to 10 in that husbands almost always leave their wives when they deal with any level of chronic or terminal illness. The statistics all demonstrate that this occurrence is overwhelmingly not what happens, and it is in fact the exact opposite, where the wife gets sick and the husband fucks right off to go get married to some healthy young woman, some sugar baby or whatever. That is so much more common than the husband gets sick and the wife cheats and runs off on the husband. There are stats that back this up. So this story was written and flips the real thing that happens, like tells a story about a thing that is statistically very rare. Like, when you combine all these factors the story tells, it's like so blatantly made up, because we literally have stats that show that this does not happen. Wives do not typically leave their husbands when they get sick at anywhere near the rate husbands ditch their wives when their wives get sick.
Diagnosed with a chronic illness that left him unable to work and constantly tired. Suddenly, I wasn't just his wife, I was his caregiver. He became obsessed with his health, and every conversation was about his pain or his treatments. I felt like I was suffocating.
So here, like, he is, like, her husband is literally sick and dying, and she's complaining that he's complaining about dying. It's so hard for her to listen to him complain about how his body is failing him because he's dying. You know? Like, she is written so villainously. Because a man wrote this. A man who hates women wrote this.
No one talks about.
And not just that, but a man who needs other men to hate the woman he made up. The only way that the guy who wrote this could feel some level of, like, satisfaction is if other men hate a woman he made up as much as he hates all women. So when you see incels write these stories about a made-up woman who's so awful, they have no reason for it, but that is how evil they see women as. The amount of, like, bad impression that this woman leaves on you and the way that the story is written is how they see all women, but for no reason.
It's about how hard it is to be the one left holding everything together. I worked full-time, handled all the bills, took care of our daughter, and had to play nurse. He stopped being a partner to me. I was alone in that marriage, and no one cared. Then, about a year ago, I met someone at work. He's younger 30 to my 40, but he made me feel alive again. Let's call him Jake.
Hey, I was right
Jake
about
saw
math.
me in a way my husband hadn't in years. He'd compliment me, make me laugh, and remind me of what it felt like to be desired.
This is a very common incel talking point, that women are constantly needing attention. If you actually know any women, you'll know that, like, there are two types of women. There are women who are genuinely completely fed up with like the amount of men catcalling them and complimenting them for their appearance because they've been getting complimented for their appearance and treated like that's the only valuable trait they have, since in many cases they were children, which is super fucking creepy. But that's the reality of it. For a lot of women, they can't, like, they don't think of a compliment about their appearance as like a positive thing. They see it as like another occurrence of that thing men have been doing to them since they were a child, that they now have the context to realize is creepy as fuck, so it evokes some bad ideas and thoughts to it, especially with how unprompted these compliments tend to be. While on the other hand, and this is part of why men and women have such a great divide in social experience and why there's been such a political divide, on the other hand, while most women could absolutely do with less compliments and comments about their appearance, most men, like at their darkest moment, think about the one time a woman did anything approximating an unsolicited compliment at their appearance. For men, one of the greatest things you can receive is an unsolicited compliment about your appearance. For women, it is evocative of this creepy tendency they've had to deal with since they were children, which is a massive experiential gap that kind of shows like why men and women aren't seeing eye to eye on a lot of things, because there are like fundamental desires that are different. Like, men want to be sexually desired, women want to be desired sexually less. These are like fundamentally contrary desires. And we're seeing that borne out in the political divide right now. And that's what's fueled a lot of this type of content to do so well.
I didn't mean for it to turn into an affair, but it just happened. At first, I told myself it was harmless. I needed an escape, something that was mine. But the more time I spent with...
This is like out of a TV show, like the justifying, like after her dead husband killed himself over it, like justifying every step of the cheating. Like justifying like cheating parts as if they weren't cheating, by the way. Like, yeah, he would compliment me, we would go on dates, but that wasn't bad. It wasn't bad till we literally hooked up. Like, this is clearly written by a man who thinks that women think this way, that like it's not cheating till you literally hook up. No, most women are not like this.
With Jake, the more I realized I deserved to be happy. My husband's illness shouldn't have to define my life. I told myself that he wouldn't want me to waste away feeling miserable, but deep down, I knew he'd never forgive me if he found out. He did find out, though, and it destroyed him. He begged me to stay, to try therapy, but I couldn't do it. I moved out. He wouldn't stop calling and texting, telling me how much he needed me. But I was done. I told him I couldn't live my life for him anymore. 6 months ago, he took his own life. My daughter was the one who found him. She called me sobbing, and
There are a few things to acknowledge here. Some details that are like, okay, so this is clearly a made-up story, and details that show that, like, the person who made up the story really wants you to hate this woman for as many reasons as possible. So for starters, in what scenario does the mom not get custody of the kid? We know the stats for, like who gets custody the vast majority of the time. When it comes to like parent courts, they never mention like an official divorce, but it seems to be implied, and it seems like the dad had custody, if not partial custody. But if that's not the case, then the only assumption you can draw is the mom, the woman writing this story, fucked off, abandoned the daughter and the husband. The husband took care of the daughter all on his own, was so depressed that he killed himself, and because of her actions, her daughter discovered her dead father's body and does not see her daughter's point of view. This is such a fake story, obviously. All the evidence shows it's fake. Like, they're like the statistics that we have for the occurrence of these like events, because we have stats that track certain things that they claimed happened in this story. It's like dream luck for any of these things to have happened to the same person in the same narrative. And on top of that, every single line, every single character trait is written to make the husband look as sympathetic as possible, even from the perspective of someone who should not be writing the husband sympathetically, realistically, while she is writing herself to sound as bad as possible, who nobody who is a bad person doing an Am I the Asshole post writes the story so honestly you can tell they're the asshole. It's always everybody who writes an Am I the Asshole story writes it in a way where the obvious conclusion is they're not the asshole because they're narcissistic and reframe reality to make themselves sound like the good guy because they recognize it even when they're in the wrong. And so even if this lady was some insane narcissistic bitch, she wouldn't be writing the story in such a way that any reader, even ones like you guys who are reading this, who are not incels. You don't have like the programmed incel ideology that would make you view this woman in the worst possible charitability or the worst light. And yet it is so obvious, even to us, that we were meant to hate this woman. It is written to make us hate her, to be sympathetic towards the daughter and the husband, even though realistically, if this woman was real and writing the story, she would make them as unsympathetic as possible and make herself sound as sympathetic as possible rather than like a bitch.
I'll admit I didn't know what to say. What could I say? It was tragic, yes, but he made his choice. I can't carry the weight of his decisions. After the funeral, my daughter completely shut me out. She moved in with her grandparents, and every time I try to talk to her, she shuts me down. She's only 16, but she acts like she knows everything. I suggested
putting
therapy,
down the daughter,
but she refused.
This is because a lot of people watching this, by the way, are going to be 16 to 17-year-old like guys, and this is also appealing to the whole adults don't take us 16-year-olds seriously. We 16-year-olds, we're the smart ones. We know how things are. These dumb adults don't know a thing about the real world. God. Listen, I've had very few interactions as an adult with teenagers, but every single one has made me hate teenagers. And now I think back to when I was like 16 and my mom would just say, I fucking hate teenagers. And I'd be like, why? I'm not that bad. Now I think back and it's like, I might have been the world's best teenager, but even then I would have still been a teenager. Just the worst people. Teenagers are horrible people. They really, really are. And the fact that the internet like mandates that at some point I might see the opinion of a teenager presented in front of me on any issue whatsoever should make me like qualify for like a medical payout for the brain damage that I incur, because I'm gonna need to get treatment for that, dude. But yeah, this is literally meant to appeal to like dumb fuck 16-year-old incel dudes.
Meanwhile, Jake has been my rock. He understands me in a way no one else does. He's helped me see that I'm not a bad person, I just deserve to be happy. I moved in with him a few months ago, and I'm finally starting to feel like myself again. But my daughter, she's stuck in the past. She refuses to move on. She clings to her father's memory, like it's some sort of shrine, and blames me for everything.
Like, if this woman was real, she would never write herself to sound like such a Disney villain, dude. She is writing herself, supposedly, to sound like a Disney villain because she's not real, and this is a man writing from the perspective of a made-up woman and a made-up story, blatantly.
She won't even give Jake a chance. I get that she's hurt, but at some point, she has to grow up. Life moves on.
She has to grow up. She just needs to get along with the guy that in the story's narrative is directly responsible for her father's death, who literally took her father's wife and led to his suicide and ruined her life. She just needs to get over it and grow up. Literally written by a teenager incel.
So, Reddit, tell me, why should I feel guilty for finding someone better? Ada for moving on and being happy while my daughter clings to the past.
Am I the asshole for being happy while my daughter clings to the past? No real asshole am I the asshole posts are ever written like this. Ever.
Daughter's perspective. I've been holding this in for so long, and I can't take it anymore. My mom posted on Reddit, making herself out to be some kind of victim, and I'm just done. If she wants to tell her side of the story.
No fucking shot, bro. This is so fake. What? Supposedly the daughter has now found the Reddit post and is now giving her side of the story. It is literally like a fucking ARG now, bro. This is literally like in like ARG format. Whenever you read like multi-perspective r/no sleep stories, this is how they're formatted. This might as well This is just, if this was creepy, it could have been posted on r/no sleep, bro. Yeah, this is ARG level shit, like Reddit ARG shit. They made throwaways to pretend to be characters in the story. We got to hear the rest, guys. Okay, here's the thing. If you guys are tired of this made up story and me ranting about it, type 1 in chat. If you want me to cover the rest of it, type 2. But if you type 1, I've got another video that is really good as well that I want to show you guys. But we are getting pretty long with this segment. A lot of you guys want me to finish this. It's getting juicy. A lot of people are saying 1. I'll see if I can fit both, okay? I'll try to finish this next bit of the story up quickly so we have time for the second thing similar to this I wanted to show you guys.
Fine, but I'm going to tell mine, too. Maybe then
So here's
people
the
will see
daughter's
the truth.
POV.
For as long as I can remember, my dad was my best friend. He was the kind of dad who would sit with me for hours helping me with homework. Even
Greatest
after working
dad
all
possible.
day, he'd take me to the park, build blanket forts, and stay up late making up silly bedtime stories. He wasn't just my dad, he was my hero.
Disney dad.
When he got sick, everything changed. At first, we thought it was just stress, but then came the diagnosis. A degenerative illness
We thought it was stress because he worked so hard.
that would slowly take everything from him. I was only 13, but I knew it was serious when my mom barely reacted. She just sighed like it was an inconvenience, like his health was something that got in the way of her plans. She started spending less time at home. Dad would be stuck on the couch, exhausted, while I tried to help him however I could. I learned how to cook basic meals because Mom would work late all the time. She stopped coming to family dinners. When she was home, she acted like taking care of him was a chore. I overheard their fights. She'd accuse him of being too needy and say things like, "I didn't sign up for this." My dad always tried to calm her down, to apologize.
Ooh, another great detail, by the way. The choice of making the dad sick as the reason she left him is such great incel writing when you think about it. It's so poetic. Because what do they say when you take your vows of marriage? To stay by each other in sickness and in health. It is one of the core parts of your vows of marriage. So he wrote this story specifically such that she broke one of the core main vows when you get married, of like staying together in sickness and in health. He specifically wrote the story such that she broke the basic template of wedding vows. It's so uncreative, like down to like the dad being like this Disney dad building blanket forts with the daughter and shit, the perfect dad who just, we thought he got sick from the stress of working so hard. My mom, she just sighed when she found out he was sick.
Even though he wasn't the one who did anything wrong. I don't know how he kept going, watching the person he loved treat him like a burden. When I found out about the affair, I didn't believe it at first. Dad tried to keep it from me, but I saw the messages on her phone one night when she left it on the counter. She'd been texting someone she named Jake in her post. I confronted her, and she didn't even deny it. She just rolled her eyes and said, "You'll understand when you're older." Understand what? That it's okay to destroy your family because you're bored? The worst part was how it broke my dad. He tried so hard to keep it together for me, but I could see how much—
Like I said, really common right-wing incel talking point is that women get bored with good men and cheat on them. And so you might as well like follow the teachings of Andrew Tate, because women don't get bored with Andrew Tate.
it hurt him. He begged her to stay, even after everything. He told me one night that he felt like he wasn't enough for her anymore, that maybe if he weren't sick, she'd still love him. Days later, she moved out. I was the one who found him. I came home from school, and the house was too quiet. I thought maybe he was sleeping, but when I went to check his room, he wasn't there. I found him in the garage. I can't get the image out of my head. I called 911, but it was too late. He was gone. Do you know what my mom said when I called her, sobbing? "I'm sorry, but this isn't my fault."
My daughter just saw her dead father. I'm sorry, but this isn't my fault. 911, because remember, it's an AI voice. It's an AI voice reading this. Like these channels don't even pretend to not be AI, because most of the audience that watches this content are so stupid, they don't even consider it.
She didn't even come back to the house. She let me deal with the police, the ambulance, everything. I am 16 years old, and I had to handle it all because she was too busy playing house with her new boyfriend. After the funeral,
Sure you
I
are.
moved in with my grandparents. I couldn't stay in that house. It felt haunted, like every room reminded me of him. My grandparents have been amazing. But even they can't erase the
In before the entire story is true, and this 16-year-old makes a big call-out post on her twitter.com saying, this fuck-ass streamer made a call-out post on me claiming my story is made up. Well, here's proof that all of it is real, you piece of shit. And I'm just gonna look so fucking bad if that ends up being the case. Just imagine. That'd be so fucking funny.
pain of what my mom did. Now, she acts like she's the victim. She keeps calling me, saying I'm
Post a picture of the dead dad.
punishing her by cutting her off, like I owe her forgiveness. She even wants me to meet Jake. As if I'd ever want to sit across from the man she left us for while my dad was dying. I'm in therapy now, but it's hard. Some days, I still blame myself. I keep thinking, if I'd come home earlier, maybe I could have saved him. But then I remember it wasn't me who broke him. It was her. So, yeah, maybe I'm clinging to the past. But how am I supposed to move on when every day...
I love how the guy couldn't just write a story where, like, the POV character is clearly the villain. He had to write an additional story to get a little more steam out, like, to let off a little more steam, with a throwaway where he's pretending to be the daughter, where he emphasizes, as the daughter, she's the bad guy, by the way. Like, yeah, we know, you wrote her to be the bad guy.
Day I'm reminded of what she did. Mom, if you're reading this, stop trying to rewrite the story. You're not the victim here. You made your choice. Now you have to live with it. OP's update. I can't believe the hate I've gotten on my last post. I came here looking for...
Okay, now it's the mom giving an update, because this is a literal made-up ARG, basically. And am I the asshole ARG?
support. But all I got was judgment. For those of you who didn't read it, I posted about my daughter refusing to talk to me after her father's death. I moved on with my boyfriend, and she cut me off.
This guy needs more dudes hating this made-up woman to read the comments of to get his rocks off, that he is now making her, quote-unquote, have responses to the fished-for hate comments. She's now, like, trying to respond to them so more people will respond to her. He's, like, addicted to pretending to be this awful woman because the way people treat this made-up woman validates his like, desire to see women be hated. It's a really common, like, trend among incels. I want to finish this story.
Blaming me for everything. What people don't understand is that my marriage was over long before my husband died. His illness consumed everything. It was like I didn't exist anymore.
Why didn't you divorce him, though?
I gave and gave, and there was
the obvious like answer that is constantly hovering over this is then divorce him, then get a divorce. You cheat, like you argued with him, you made his life hell, and then cheated on him, and like only left him once he discovered you cheated on him, because this is a character written to be as awful as possible.
Nothing left of me. My husband's death was
you know how in movies, like, the awful cheating wife character gets found out as a cheater and then gets really aggressive at the guy, and then all the comments in the clip are like, this is so realistic, women are always avoiding accountability. It's those types of dudes who wrote this story.
Was tragic, but it wasn't my fault. I didn't force him to make that decision. Now my daughter is posting lies about me online, making me out to be some kind of monster. She's a teenager. She doesn't understand how complicated relationships can be.
She's a teenager. She doesn't understand how complicated relationships can be, because this story is meant to appeal to 16-year-olds who would be insulted by that line.
I've tried reaching out to her so many times, but she refuses to listen. She just wants to play the victim. Jake, my boyfriend, has been the only person who stood by me through this. He gets me in a way no one else does. I've been through so much, and I deserve happiness. But
he just gets me. I deserve happiness. What incels think all women are like.
It feels like the world wants to punish me for moving on. Reddit. I need to know, why does everyone expect me to carry the weight of everyone else's pain? Editor's note. The daughter mostly repeated what she said in her post, with more information. Daughter in the comments. This is my mom's second post about me, and I can't stay quiet anymore. She's lying again. She's trying to make herself the victim.
Can we move on to the next video now? Have I made my point, or do we need to watch the rest of this fake-ass fucking throwaway account bullshit? Keep going. I know it's gold, guys. I get that it's gold, but I have more gold for you. This isn't all the gold I have. I have platinum. I have platinum for you guys. Move on. Okay. I have platinum for you guys. I promise, all right? I know this story was gold. I know this was pure incel gold, and I encourage you to go seek this out to watch the rest on your own, but I might cringe out of my skull if I see another, like, pretending to be the daughter responding to the... It's so cringe. This is one person having an argument with themselves in a fictionalized narrative, pretending to be fictionalized people. It's... If it was an ARG, it would be cool, but the fact that it's not meant to be a cool ARG project makes it unbelievably depressing and sad. Like, I need you to genuinely think about the kind of person who put all that together on Reddit and why they did it. Why did they put that together? I can almost respect how pathetic it is. I absolutely cannot. Let me bring up the other video I wanted to show you guys, okay? This is another example of, like, what you just watched is what I like to call incel pity party porn. Incels get off on having self-pity over how lonely and sexually undesirable they are. They consider it something they were cursed with, that they just didn't luck out. There's nothing they can really do about it because women are a certain way, they see men a certain way, and if they are not a desirable man, then they just got fucked over due to no fault of their own, and that they are a victim, basically, and they just throw pity parties for themselves. And they love their incel pity party porn. They love it. Shit made just for them to jack off to and have, like, just to be pitiful over themselves for. So let me see if I can bring up the video really fast that I'm thinking of. It's a skit video. I think it's called When She Finds Out You Have a Girlfriend. Yeah, here it is. When the girl who friend-zoned you finds out you moved on.
Yep, this is definitely...
This guy makes a lot of incel skits. Many of them are normal, but a lot of them, because this one is his most successful, have become like incel skits. So this is a perfect example of incel pity porn.
Yep, this is definitely the dress. Right? What do you think? Hello? How good do I look?
Oh, good. Good, sorry, yeah.
Yeah, Blake is gonna be real mad he missed date night, right? Earth to bestie.
Sorry, yeah, Blake's gonna love it.
Who are you texting?
Nobody.
Okay, well, obviously you're texting somebody.
I'm texting Stephanie's friend, Emily.
Why are you talking to Stephanie's friend, Emily?
We've just been hanging out a couple times, you know, hanging out.
Really? I thought you weren't looking for a relationship.
Yeah, I wasn't.
No, you said that last week. You were like, I'm not looking for a relationship.
Yeah, well, things...
Remember that? I do.
Things can change.
How long has this been happening?
Just a couple of weeks. She's coming over tonight, actually, so...
Awesome. That's so awesome.
Yeah.
I am so happy for you. Oh my god, my bestie's finally getting some.
Yeah.
Thank God.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's nothing serious, though, right?
Sorry.
So if nobody is picking up on it, and maybe I'll have to explain this to the whammon in the audience, because the logic behind the men who wrote this skit probably makes no fucking sense to you. Yeah, porn writing, porn acting, absolutely. But basically, a lot of young men cannot handle the idea of a woman that they're interested in and have feelings for only wanting to be friends platonically. And I think that's somewhat understandable, right? Like, if you have, like, strong feelings for a girl and it's like, oh, we can still be friends, but they're, like, in a relationship, it's like, I might not want to hang around too much, you know? Like, I think that's fine. But what they like to say, what these incels like to push, is the idea that women will be friends with a guy and lead them on. That this is a very frequent thing they claim. that women will only be friends with a guy in order to lead them on in a way to get something out of them, because the guy believes maybe he'll get like some level of romantic response or what's the word for it, reciprocation, if he is always on call to provide something, right? And a lot of dudes think this way, and they think that women like have this like way of having a catalog of guys that they're constantly leading on, that they've friend zoned, quote unquote, and that if any of those guys are not constantly at their beck and call to give attention, because women love attention, ask any incel, they believe that women thrive off of attention and need drama and attention constantly. It's a very common incel talking point. They will claim that women just keep a lot of dudes around for constant positive attention, compliments, and affirmation that she's valuable and desirable, never actually provide them any reciprocation, and only ever provide them with like a teensy bit of it in order to get something out of them. Don't get me wrong, there are some women who are like this. There are guys who are like this too, if they're like hot enough to get away with it. But like, so like, this is not like a woman thing, all right? This is literally pity porn for guys who want to feel as though every woman who has rejected their romantic advances but said, you're still a nice person, though, I want to be friends with you, like, we can still hang out, like, they want to feel pity about that by watching videos about made-up scenarios in which the girl who friend-zoned them would get super jealous and possessive if he ever actually got some game, which he never will. That's why it's a skit video, and guys who watch this are never going to get any game, and the girl who friend-zoned them is never going to get jealous of it, even if they did, because the girl that friend-zoned them, quote-unquote, just wants to be friends and isn't romantically interested in them and isn't going to get they're going to be happy for it. This isn't real. Like, the real interaction of this would be like, oh my god, I'm so happy for you. Do you want to invite her over? We can hang out. Like, that would be that would be what would actually happen in this situation. Like, oh, what's her Facebook? What's her socials? I'll follow her. Do you want to invite her over? I'm so happy for you. Hell yeah. How long have you been dating? Like, that would be the real interaction between a girl and her guy buddy who, like, had feelings for her, got rejected, they stayed friends. She would be happy for him to finally be in a relationship. It would relieve a level of stress and anxiety. That is how women actually think in situations like this. But, yeah, I don't know. I remember when Shuanhead told us that letting guys down gently is why they end up like this. She said that purely to appease the incels in her audience, because incel guys like to pretend that women are super, give mixed signals when women will just nicely reject them. They see it as mixed signals, because if she was going to reject me, if she doesn't like me, why didn't she do it in a rude, overt way? Why'd she do it in a nice, softened, sugar-coated way? Clearly the sugar-coated part of it means that she secretly has feelings for me. And that is a failing of guys understanding that no means no, not a failing of women not being overt enough in their rejection, I assure you, okay? That is a bullshit talking point, Shuanhead said, to please dudes who thought the way that I did when I was 16, because that is a lot of Shuanhead's audience, is young men who want to hear a woman validate their dog shit, underdeveloped political opinions.
What?
I said, obviously it's nothing serious, though, right?
Well,
You don't actually like her, right? You're just using her.
I don't know.
It doesn't mean anything to you.
I don't know. I mean, I really haven't felt like this intensely about somebody since, like,
Since what?
just in a while, so.
Huh. Let's do something tonight.
But aren't you hanging out with Blake tonight?
Let's get wine drunk. Watch a rom-com, something like that.
No. And I'd love to, obviously.
You would love to.
It's just that, remember, Emily's coming over tonight, so. Claire?
You can blow her off, right?
I mean, I guess I could, but I don't really want to.
Mikey, come on. I'm ditching Blake. We've been...
They fuck for the rest of the YouTube video, so I'm gonna have to end it here. Yeah, it wasn't just porn acting. That is actually a porn intro, believe it or not. This isn't good porn. No, this is from a channel called Mikey and Wyatt. And this has 10 million views and came out 9 months ago. This video has gotten more than 1 million views in the last 9 months of its existence, which really goes to show, like how successful this shit has been. And his content is all like dog shit like this. He's got the Friendzone series because of how successful this shit is. Because incels just love beating their meat to this pity porn. When you're hopelessly in love with your female friend, when the girl who friendzones you finds out you moved on, when the girl who friendzones you finds out meets your girlfriend, when the girl who friendzoned you is finally single, when the girl who friendzoned you finally says I love you, when the girl who friendzoned you finally becomes your girlfriend. Hold on, I need to move the thing up. Yeah, so this is like Darman skit trash channel, obviously, but they've done a lot of incel bait stuff. And now they're doing like a lot of like right-wing culture war stuff too. Like a lot of it's just like, aren't women just such crazy bitches, bro? My girlfriend had a sex dream about another guy. Never tell your wife about you love her. How to stop your girlfriend from breaking up with you. I've heard this concept work wife so many times, and it's just like, what the fuck are like middle-aged straight couples doing? What the fuck is a work wife? Why the fuck do you need a work? I know it doesn't literally mean a woman that you cheat on your wife with at work. It's literally like a woman who assumes like a managerial like helicopter role over you at work. Like what the fuck is that? What? I heard that shit and it just instantly sent the same cringe up my spine that the term hubby does. You guys ever hear a middle-aged woman refer to her husband as her hubby? It sends that same cringe up my spine. The term work wife does. Good lord. Anyway. I just thought that you guys needed to see what type of content are incels watching online these days to make themselves feel like there are real anecdotal examples of the world working the way they do. And I think that this is valuable insight, as slop as that was, as made up slop as that was. That is genuinely how conservatives and incels view the world and view the psychology of women. Or what they would call, quote-unquote, modern women. And I think it's important to understand how they think, because knowing now that this is what they think women are like, we can now counter these stereotypes in our rhetoric. I noticed that when I was iterating what the right believed about women, people in chat who I guess weren't paying attention and didn't realize that I was not saying what I believed, but was saying what they believed, started protesting what I was saying. I was talking about how incels say that or think that women will friend zone a bunch of guys and lead them on and keep them around as something to get something from while never reciprocating feelings. I was talking about how that is how incels think women behave, and people in chat were protesting as if I was talking as though that's what I believe. It's just like, no, pay attention. YouTube chat? No, it was website chatters. I don't pay attention to YouTube chat as much, but it was website chatters from what I could tell. But yeah, I mean, I think it's very valuable that you guys pay attention to a segment like that and you recognize that even though every bit of that was made up incel fanfiction meant for them to have their little pity party jerk-off fests to, that the fact that they wrote it shows that that is how they view women's psychology. Think of it the same way as like when I read J.K. Rowling's Harry Potter books as a kid, something that stuck out to me a lot was like, man, J.K. Rowling does not understand how teenage boys think. Harry is such a, like, incel freak creepo. And mind you, at the time, there was not this big problem with young men being incels, like, in the same way that we have today. So, like, back then, when I was, like, 14 and reading Harry Potter, like, the fact that J.K. Rowling thinks young men are just awful was so clear in his inner dialogue and thought process and behaviors. Harry is, like, constantly, like, his inner monologue is constantly so bitter and snide, particularly about women and girls, and he's such an incel as well. It's very clear that, like, J.K. Rowling wrote Harry in a way that is indicative of how she thinks men think. In that same way, these stories are indicative of how incels think women think. And a lot of them genuinely think that women think that way, even if they're making up stories in which that's the case, because they can't find real examples, I guess. They still think that these stories would happen, you know? A lot of incels, if this story was proven 100% false, would just say, well, the fact I believed it must, that means something, right? That would be their genuine cope response. Anyway, if you enjoyed this segment, thought anything I said here had any value or bearing whatsoever, if you found it entertaining or enjoyable, then please consider hitting the like button, comment down below, or hit the subscribe button and turn on all notifications so that YouTube actually tells you when I go live or upload new videos, because if you don't, then believe me, YouTube won't tell you. But of course, if you want to see more from me on other platforms, you can follow my social medias as well. Join my fan Discord to be a part of the watch party I'll be hosting shortly after stream. And of course, if you want to support me directly, you can afford it and you feel like it, consider donating, subscribing, or gifting a sub on my website, xanderhall.com/live, or support me financially through YouTube, Twitch, Streamlabs, Stream Elements, Patreon, or perhaps even buy some Xander Hall merch through the Streamlabs link down below in the description. Regardless of how much you support me, though, thank you all so much for watching, as always, and have a good one.